Hello, my name is Carol Carter, and I'm the founder and CEO of Global Minded. We are dedicated to creating a capable, diverse talent pipeline that gets more women, people of color, underrepresented, first gen to college, into the education, economic mobility, employment, and leadership pipelines. And we do this in a number of ways. Normally, every year we have a big conference, and we've taken that virtually. And now every month, as an offshoot of that, we have these equity team events, and they're called Courageous Conversations, Catalyzing Change. And in K-12, we're delighted to work with Dr. Paul Miller, who also works with Dr. Benna Kalik, Erica Tawani, and the other folks who you may have worked with the last few years on the K-12 leadership team. So this session will be recorded, and we will be sharing the link with you afterwards. And we will be here again the third Thursday of every month. And next month, mark your calendars, it's International Month of Women. So Paul has another lineup of incredible women similar to who you're going to meet today. So thanks to all of you for joining us. And Paul, my great pleasure to introduce you on our critical topic as we celebrate Black History Month, which is Black Women First, Powerful Innovators Who Are Changing the World. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm Dr. Paul Miller, and we are going to talk and celebrate Black women today. I thought it was important, as it's Black History Month, that we celebrate Black women, especially with the thought of we now have our vice president, who is a Black woman. Made me think like we need to recognize some strong, independent sisters who are no nonsense, but also have the heart of lions and just heart of mothers as well. So what I would like to do is be able to let everyone introduce themselves in a minute. So I'm going to give you all about 60 seconds to introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, what you do, tell us why you're here. And then we'll pass it on down. So I see the first person I see, Queinnise Wing. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Dr. Miller. So my name is Queinnise Wing. I am a professional development specialist with the Department of Defense Education Activity for almost now 15 years. I am also a veteran of the United States Army. I served honorably and earned the rank of Staff Sergeant. I was the first person of color to be the Department of Defense's Teacher of the Year in 2017. I am an author of several books, to include Racial Justice in America series that just came out for my children's line. So just really excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity to share space with all of you wonderful, beautiful sisters. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dingus Eason, if you would like to share with the world who you are.
Hi, everyone. I am delighted to be here, and especially with all these powerful Black women leaders. I'm Janine Dingus Eason. I am a dean of the School of Education at the Rhode Island College in Providence, Rhode Island. I've been here since 2019. Prior to that, I was in my hometown of Rochester, New York, and I was a program director, chair for the Executive Leadership Doctoral Program at St. John Fisher College. And I'm here because my former student, Dr. Paul Miller, is the organizer of the session, and he was kind enough to reach out and to include me as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dorcia Pleers, if you want to tell us who you are.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Dorcia Pleers, as mentioned, born and raised in Washington, D.C., moved to Albany, New York, where I currently reside, and I serve as the Chief City Auditor in the City of Albany. It is an elected position, and so I hope to have the opportunity to talk more about my experience and background as an elected official. I was happy to accept this invitation. One, as I shared to the ladies before we got started, when Dr. Miller asked, you say yes. And so he is a leader in this community, and he shows up for everyone here and across the country and globe. And so it's important that we show up for Dr. Miller. The other incentive was just being around all of this beautiful Black girl magic that you all will hear from shortly. There are few opportunities to share spaces with women who look like me, who have similar lived experience. And so when those opportunities present, I jump at them. So I'm thankful and blessed to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Lakeisha Simmons.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Miller. And as has been said and shared, this is just an amazing moment. I don't know that I've ever been on a panel with this much just Black girl magic, right? This is awesome. All the doctors, every time Paul says doctor, I think, oh, that must be me. But no, there's so many doctors here, and I love that. And I'm so thankful to be on this panel, and author. I can't wait to catch up with Queinnise later. I really want to get some information on her books. And I'm also an author. So I am the unlikely achiever. And I call myself that because of my background and where I've come from. And you may have read that in the Global Minded newsletter last week about my story and how I grew up and from where I've come to where I am now, and how important it is to give back. And I'm thankful for organizations like the PhD Project, who help us become who we are today, right? Doctors and in the field of business. And so as a Black woman who is an author, but I'm also a professor, and I am really into financial empowerment right now and educating people on financial independence and financial security, because that was something that I struggled with as a young girl from such humble beginning, and from where I've come. It's important for people to be financially secure. And so as a Black woman in this day and age, it's important for me to educate other Black women and to make sure that they have their finances in order, from budgeting to investing. And so that's the path that I'm on right now in educating those women. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Queinnise Miller.
Hello, everybody. I am so honored to be here. I am here because I know Dr. Miller's heart, not just because he has the same name as me, but I know his heart for children. Just a little bit about myself. I have been doing this work for over 20 years in education. I'm a mom, I'm a teacher, I'm a leader, I'm an author, a new author. Super excited about that. I'm a speaker, and I focus mainly on the humanity of education and really building authentic relationships with all of the stakeholders that are involved. And so in the consulting work that I do, I offer training and consultancy and leadership coaching and mentorship to those who are really rooted in this work for love and for service to children, but more importantly, those that serve the children. That's the piece that we really got. Serve children are not whole, then they can't give wholeness to children. And so I really support honesty and advocacy and the realness of those that are in this work, and that are in it to love by any means necessary. So I'm super excited to be here, and there's a lot of magic on this call, and I hope that I'm able to contribute with these amazing, wonderful ladies. And so thank you again for letting me be here.
And last but not least, Dr. Myers-Small.
Sure. Hello and greetings to everyone. I'm Dr. Leslie Myers-Small. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. I currently serve as the superintendent of the Rochester City School District, which is a part of the Big Five in the state of New York. Rochester is the third largest school district, New York City being the largest, then Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers. Of the Big Five, 4 are males, and so I'm the only woman and woman of color in the Big Five. And I feel like I've got 4 great brothers who are very supportive of me. I've been in education almost 30 years, and actually my career started in the Rochester City School District as a high school counselor. And so I feel like I've returned home to finish my career in a place where the students have been underserved for far too long. And so my aim and my goal is to really protect the sanctity of childhood. And I really take that to heart. I'm an author as well. I wrote a book a few years ago entitled Life's Leadership Lessons. And I'm actually working on a children's book about what it means to be a superintendent and some of the decisions that have been so difficult to make as of late, being in COVID-19. The reason why I'm here is because I'm lately have been guided by something that Brother Malcolm X said in 1962. And he said, the most disrespected woman in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman, and the most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And he was really speaking to the condition of where Black women were in 1962, and he did that in Los Angeles. And so this is a time where there are many Black women who have amazing positions, and I'm so excited to see the vice president who looks like me. But when you go into spaces when you are the first, and I'm the first of many situations that I've been involved in, there is often hatred, envy, jealousy, and unfortunately thought about not being successful. So I'm here because there may be a woman who's watching who may say, you know what, I'm really struggling, and you need to know that you are not in this alone, and that you can make it, and that there's, to keep hope, to stay courageous, and to stay in the fight, because there are many people who are dependent upon the skills, talents, and abilities that you bring to the table. So stay in the fight. And I'm excited because my well has been low as of late. And so I'm looking forward to just being encouraged by the magic that I see on the screen.
Well, thank you all. I think it's important that I'm gonna veer off topic for a second, because what I found is that it's based off of what you just said, Leslie, is that the Black woman isn't protected, and sometimes idolized, but in the wrong way. And it angers me and it upsets me, because as I think about it, and we should have hundreds of people on here watching. And so quite often when you're on Instagram or Facebook and you go by a post with someone exposing themselves inappropriately, it gets all these likes and all these views. And don't get me wrong, Black women are beautiful, but there's so much more to Black women than that. And so, it's almost offensive that with all these powerful women on here, that we don't have hundreds of people lined up to watch you all, because you guys are powerful, dynamic women, which you will show, and I'm sure it will get thousands of views later. But again, I think as a community and as a society, we have to honor you all and respect you all for so much more than just being the beautiful creatures that you are. And I mean that with all love. With that being said, I'm going to ask my first question to Dr. Dingus. What makes Black women so magical?
And you look at all the women on this call, and I didn't go into detail, but I mentioned being from Rochester, and growing up on the west side of Rochester is like many areas in this country, many urban areas in this country, a very, very challenged background. And I am what I would consider a community child, because there were so many people that ended up pouring into me. And I think what makes us magical is that we bring all of that to the table. We bring our ancestors with us to the table. We bring spirituality with us to the table. We bring elements of truth to the table. So that expression that says, listen to the Black women, people need to listen to the Black women. And I think part of it is with this whole piece of intersectionality. I am Black, I am a woman, I come from a lower class background, I come from this background, I have this level of education, all of these things combined to make us who we are. I think the magic with us too is that we can bring all of those things with us in our roles. So for example, I was driving down the road today and I was thinking about that wholeness. And I think it was Dr. Queinnise who mentioned trying to be whole. And my doctoral advisor always said, operate in this world with a semblance of yourself. So no matter where you are as a leader, you have to show up with wholeness. And so the magic for me that I bring is trying to bring my whole self to everything that I do in leadership. And that means, like I said, growing up in the hood. Well, back in the hood, you tried to make $1 out of 15 cents. And so I can guarantee you that almost every single female leader on this, every woman leader on this call, particularly with the context of our organizations now, is in that mindset. You know, we all have to figure out how to make $1 out of 15 cents. So I think we bring something very different and different perspectives, but we also bring a heart for service. And that advocacy is just, it's the crux of being a Black woman leader. So I think that's the Black woman leaders magic that we bring.
So what do you think, Dr. Simmons? Same question. What makes Black women magical?
I echo everything that was just said. And I would add to that, it's our ability to care for others in such a real way, right? So when, as many of us are teachers, educators, professors, and just in our communities, mentors, and we love hard, right? I mean, we love with everything. I can just meet a young girl somewhere, and at the post office, actually, last week, I was at the post office, and the lady working at the desk, she said to me, "You're always in here with these purple packages. What is it that's in these packages? I have to know." I said, "Well, they're books." She said, "Oh, what's your book about?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to bring you a book back up here." I went out, came back in, I gave her a book, and she just lit up. And I said, "And I want you to call me and I want us to talk." And she was like, "Really?" Yeah, because that's what we do. That's why we have this magic, and it's going to explode. Sometimes I just feel like I have so much in me to give to others as a Black woman. I just have so much. God just keeps on filling me up, filling me up, filling me up, and I have to give it, right? My soror is over there, Dr. Janine, because we have it, and we have to give it what we have, because God has given it to us to share, and no one can do that like a Black woman, and that's what makes us magical.
Wait, so we got 4 sorors on here? You know, I got to throw it up for the people, but okay, we give it up for anybody want to shout it out?
Wow, awesome.
Rep your organization. Tell us, Dr. Pleers, tell us about, what does that mean? What did you just do?
Oh, what did I just do in terms of throw it out?
Yeah. So what does that mean? What is that about?
So, quickly, as Dr. Miller mentioned, there are several of my sorors represented. We belong to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And, the symbolic of endearment and love. And it's just saying, sister, I see you. And it means connection on a very deep level.
Thank you. So Kalisa, if you could tell me, when have you been the first Black woman to accomplish something personally or professionally? Can you discuss that a little bit? Because I know you got a couple first, so let me hear it.
So I think I shared in my introduction, I am the first person of color, male, woman, Black, white, Hispanic, Latinx, to be DODIA's Teacher of the Year in 2017. I will say, and Dr. Janine, you talked about, bringing your whole self, and I'm grateful for that opportunity, because I felt the weight of being the first, and knowing that when I came, I wasn't just coming as Kalisa from Toledo, Ohio, but I was coming as a Black woman, a Black person, with all of those experiences, and that I needed to make sure that I was representing in the most positive way, because unfortunately, the spaces that I was occupying when I was representing out in the 55 of the 55 state teachers of the year, there were only 5 of us in that year who were of color, and I was the only Black. I will say there was another Black woman, but she was from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Her experiences are very different when you're coming from a place where everybody looks like you. So So that was a very unique experience. I am grateful for it. It taught me to be unapologetically Black in everything that I do. And so that was just a great experience. When I was in West Point, New York, as an assistant principal, I was the only person of color on my staff. Another interesting experience living in Orange County. I think at the time that I met you, I might have still been up there in Orange County. But again, had to make sure that I was representing in the most positive way. But at the end of the day, I think now that I've gotten older and I've matured in those different roles and experiences, I just know that I have to be who God called me to be at all times and walk in my purpose, no matter who it separates me from or brings me to. So I don't feel the weight anymore of I have to be this particular way. I have to do this. I have to do that. I don't code switch anymore. I don't have time for that. I'm just going to always be me, and who I'm called to be, and walking in the purpose that God has put before my life.
Good stuff. Dr. Myers, you want to give a crack at that? Or before that, I think Dr. Pleer is trying to chime in. Go ahead, Dr. Pleer, then I'll go to Dr. Myers.
And Dr. Miller, one thing that makes us so magical is that we create our own rules. And so if I may, I wanted to just add to the question about Black Girl Magic, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Because what popped into my mind was that image, that classic image of First Lady Michelle Obama and our new Vice President. And it was the look that started to go viral on social media, the look that they gave each other and the hand gesture. And that was a Black girl magic moment right there. And for many of us, we were able to look at that image and we knew all of what that meant. And it meant so many different things, but in particular, I see you, I'm with you. And I think in addition to what's already been said about what makes us so magical, whether it's being resourceful, learning from our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers how to make $1 out of 15 cents, whether it is being communal, we for many of us, our communities raised us. But so a lot of my colleagues talked about the adversity, and I think that is a very important trait to highlight when it comes to Black women. And it's this idea that despite extreme adversity, as it was said, Black women, one of the most unprotected, disrespected, and to be able to rise out of the concrete, essentially, and through extreme adversity, still thrive and strive. It speaks to our grit as Black women. And so personally, when I have the ability to hire, you can have all of the credentials and degrees in the world. You can have your degree from Harvard. Put that up against someone who has made it out of no way through extreme adversity. I am going to go with that individual, because for that individual to be able to make it out of their circumstances and still thrive and strive, that's the person that I want on my team. And that's the story. So for so many Black women and girls, the ability to strive and thrive. And so we bring that grit and tenacity and determination to everything that we do. And lastly, I'll say, when you are someone who has always been overlooked and people never see you, people mistreat you, you show up and you see people. You have empathy to treat them the way that you want to be treated. And I think that allows us as Black women to have care and compassion in ways that others can't, because we know what it means to be marginalized, looked over, and left out.
That's good stuff. Now, I think this question is deep, and I moved on too quick. So I got to back up. Now, Dr. Myers, I want to hear about your first, because you have had some amazing firsts, because I've known you for a very long time, and you have broken barriers that needs to be discussed. But let's stay on this Black Girl Magic for a second, and then we're gonna come back to that. So I'm gonna give each one of you a crack at it, and I'll go with Dr. Miller, and then Dr. Myers. I'm gonna ask you to talk about Black Girl Magic and your first, all in at the same time. So, Dr. Miller, can you give us what makes Black Girl Magic?
So definitely, I want to echo what a lot of my colleagues have said. Just as Black women, we are the true mothers of civilization. And I don't think we always understand the magnitude of that. We can, our complexities and our multi-talents, we can burn in the kitchen. We have brains, we have intellect, and we're beautiful. But you know, I want to kind of go into this first as we talk about the magic. I'm currently leading a campus that is 85% Hispanic, y yo hablo español perfectamente. Yo puedo comunicar con la comunidad. I speak Spanish. I can communicate with my families, but it's still not enough. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that as Black women, we are always going the extra mile. And it's unfortunate that this is even a conversation that is had globally, that as Black women, are we enough? That's always the question. That's always the wondering. And so I love what my soror, Dr. Jenny, said, is that no matter what, as we are leading and as we are serving, we've got to do that from a space of love. And fortunately, that is who we are. So it's not something that we have to manufacture. Love is who we are and what we give. But I just think that, you know, it's a conversation that hopefully with our amazing new vice president that can hopefully begin to cease, because yes, we are enough. And I think all the Black women of the entire world, one thing that seeing someone that looks like us on that television screen that day, as we all rocked our chucks and our pearls, what it did was it solidified a vision. What it did was this notion of what Marianne Williams said, that our deepest fears, that we're powerful beyond measure. What it did was it allowed us to truly dream a bigger dream and know that it's not just a dream, that can actually be something that we actualize in our life. So, yeah.
Good stuff, Dr. Myers. So you got the two loaded questions here, Black Girl Magic, and then let's talk about some of your first, personal or professional.
You know, you'll hear me quote a lot of folks. I think Maya contained it so well in talking about the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breast, the grace of my style, because I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. And that's what Black Girl Magic is. That whole poem is really that. It was a Black Girl Magic anthem. And so I don't think anyone can say it better than Sister Maya. And I had the opportunity to meet her in person. And I'm telling you, I will never forget that exchange and that opportunity. Transitioning to first, I believe everybody has a life theme. Mine is one of first. I was the first child of color to be born in the hospital on May 15th, 1969. In Concord, Massachusetts. And it was a huge phenomenon in the hospital. Janine knows my mother. She went through 38 hours of labor without any medication. Very, very difficult birth. I came and the hospital just was like, oh my goodness, like babies are babies, but not on May 15th. Like it was something different because they'd never seen a brown baby, right, in their hospital. Then when I went to high school, I started a Black Students Union because I graduated from a predominantly white high school. So that was a first. When I went to college, I was the first Black homecoming queen at the University of Rochester. That was a phenomenon. Moved in through education and I became the first president of the New York State School Counseling Association. First Black president, male or female. But the one that was so remarkable for me was to become the first woman of color to serve in a superintendency, not only in Brockport, but in the entire county of Monroe. And I have to quickly say this story because in early of May 2012, I'll never forget that I pulled into the parking lot and I'm a very good interview. I rock interviews, but I was nervous and a cacophony of fear and anxiety and all of the things that you think about when you're endeavoring, a monumental role. And I remember my friend, Dr. Nelm, said to me, Les, when you become the superintendent, you're going to be the first. And I said, wait a minute, that can't be right in Monroe County. And I did my research and I was. And so lots of nerves, lots of anxieties. But then my mind went back to all of these other brothers and sisters who paved the way for me to be where I was. My late father, the Dr. Earl Myers, who went through significant racism, my mother, who really endured, and then others, the first woman to earn a PhD. And I thought about my mentor, Dr. Walton. All of these individuals sacrificed either knowingly for me or unknowingly and paved the path. And how dare I get nervous? And so I had to shake those mental cobwebs away. And that still small voice said to me, girl, either go hard or go home, right? Because the superintendent can't be, oh my God, what are people going to think? Should I do this? You can't be indecisive when you come to the podium, right? You go through that process. And the rest is history. And so not even knowing that would not be I thought I would retire from Brockport, right? And that would be my final kind of resting place. I always wanted to be the superintendent of Rochester. And when it happened, I'm telling you, it has been, I love the show Monk. It's been a blessing and it's been a curse, right? Because it's a blessing in that I get to make an impact, but I'll tell you, the hatred and the anger and the microaggressions that have been bestowed upon me, especially since I decided to reopen schools in a hybrid model, you would just not believe. The social media attacks that I have gotten have been horrible. I don't even look at a lot of it sometimes because it just drains my soul, right? But my job and my responsibility is to support the 25,000 plus children whom I'm responsible for. And most of those children, 90% of them look like me. And so when we talk about representation matters, that's why being the first is so important, right? Because you are embarking on a journey that hasn't been trod by somebody who looks like you. And so when you're a pioneer, the road is not paved and beautiful and smooth, right? You are going through uncharted territory, uncharted waters. And I found this quote, I loved it. And I think I'll end on this. It said this: never, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor, right? And so when you're the first and you're pioneering, you are going through choppy waters, but that's when you rise to the occasion and you see what you are actually made of. And so just looping it back to, that's what Black Girl Magic is, right? Is that we are rising to the occasion, that we are enduring whether it's racial or gender attacks, or people even think I'm in my 50s. People think I'm much younger than I am. I've been asked multiple times, you are too young to be a superintendent. And I'm like, well, do you ask that of my white male counterparts who are actually indeed younger than me? But yet we still rise and we continue to push. And so I count it an honor to have these first, because I know that there are little girls who are coming up behind me who are saying, you know what, one day I want to be a superintendent of schools. And that's what gives me joy, and that's what keeps me going.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And just for the record, what's interesting about what you said, Dr. Myers, I posted this flyer, and then, so someone commented that, can you talk to her about such and such? And it was kind of in a negative. And I explained to them, that's not what this is about. This is about celebrating and hearing their first. And then I talked to this person offline, and what I said to this person is I don't think you understand the dichotomy of what a leader in her role has to go through and some of the things that are happening behind the scenes. And I broke down, some of the things that I know happens behind the scenes. And after that, the person was like, oh, I never thought of those things. And I think a lot of times the community and a person who's not in the role doesn't always see some of those other things that go on, and some of the items that go into the difficult decisions that you have to make. And just understanding that your heart is for the kids is what I would ask of people in your community, is to trust you. because you're from their community. You look like the kids, you care about the kids. You didn't have to come back there. It wasn't something you needed to do for a career move. You did it because you wanted to do it.
Right.
And so they might not understand every decision, but at least trust the person, especially being one of their own. So just kind of throwing that out in support of you and what I'm sure you're trying to do and the obstacles that you have to face. I'm going to throw another question out there. I'm going to go to Dr. Miller here. And so this is kind of along those lines. Can you dispel some of the negative things you've heard about you as a Black woman who's a leader? Because I think, you know, I'm sure you sisters get it hard. So the same way Dr. Myers is getting it, what have you heard about you, and dispel some of those myths? Tell them why it's not true.
Oh my goodness. There's so many, unfortunately. I think the biggest one though is that we are angry. This whole angry Black woman stereotype. And fortunately, because of the strength that we have, we're very honest and we're comfortable in places of reflection and in places of inward reflection. And so I think that while people take it that way, I think they take it that way because they're not actually able to navigate or to understand the power behind our transparency. I am one that is very comfortable with conflict, especially when it deals with someone not serving children right. If you are not doing this work and serving, because this is God's work to be, I think everyone here understands that this work is work for our careers. This work is ministry in a much deeper way. And so as Black women, God has given us a level of comfort in being able to have very courageous and difficult discussions when it comes to making sure and ensuring that we are all doing this work as He has, you know, quite honestly blessed us to be in the spaces to do so. So that's one.
I'm on mute. Anybody else want to take a crack at that question? Want to dispel some of the myths? This is the place. Let them have it. Tell them why it's not true. Go ahead, Dr. Simmons. I see you first.
Diva. And so my sorors know sometimes we use that to our favor, right? Devastating and all. But in the workplace, it has been used in a very derogatory way against me. I'll never forget, when I had my second son, I was on the tenure track, even though my research was up there, over 40 scholarly works, right? So I'm on top of it, still doing service, birthing babies, the whole deal. And we were working on our schedule for the fall, and my department chair came to me with the schedule, and I had never taught at 8 o'clock in the morning, never. And I'm sitting here about to burst with a baby, and I would be coming back in the fall with a newborn, about 3-4 months old baby. And I said, well, is there any way that I could maybe not teach at 8 because that may be a little difficult coming in around 11, or, you know, we have a small department. Well, all of a sudden I was called a diva. And of course I was hormonal. I cried for being hormonal and being angry. At that point I was angry, right, Dr. Miller? But I thought, wow, would you have called my white counterpart, would you call him a diva? If he asked, every semester you come and you ask me for my schedule. This particular semester, you didn't ask me, so I'm offering up availability, and now it's all of a sudden a problem, and I'm called a diva, that actual word. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. How just overtly, so many things could that be, right? In this day and age. And so, yeah, we get called names, and I've had overt racism from students, and the university has universities I've been in, you know, they sweep these things under the rug, and I just, we go through it as Black women. We go through it and we persevere, and we have grit, as my co-panelists have said. Then that's something that we do, and we persevere, and we still get up and we come in and we do 10 times as much as everybody else and get 1/10 of the recognition as everyone else, right? And that leads me to my first, Dr. Paul Miller, which was, I am the first Black tenured at Belmont in the analytics department. And we always talk about STEM, and I developed an app back in 2015, an app for students. And I got so much slack because the university wanted to know, well, when did you have time to do this? Was it with the university's computer? I had to have that conversation, and I thought, I'm a Black woman in STEM. This is what I do. I create, and I'm in tech. I'm breaking barriers around here. And you asking me, when did I have time to create it? What did I use a university computer? Instead of saying, wow, would you do that to my white counterpart? Would you ask my white counterpart, when did you have time to do this? Or would you say, wow, congrats, you did something to help our students, right? So I just wanted to share that, not to just talk about something negative, but think about the positive side of overcoming, and that tenacity and that grit, as has been said, and using it to go bigger and pave the way, right, for others who are coming behind me. That I won't be, as our VP said, I may be the first, but I will not be the last, right? So I was on the hiring committee that hired our first Black computer science major at the university, because I was able to sit on her search committee. If I would not have been there, right, that committee may not have ever given her a second chance, and I had to go to bat with her, for her. So we have to help pull others up. Even though we go through a lot and we're the first, we cannot be the last.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Players, now you are probably, and I say this with all sincerity, probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. Just like sincerely, just nice all of the time, just sweet between you and your husband, just great people. Just so there can't be people saying mean or nasty things about Dr. Players. And so what are some of your first? And then let's dispel any myths, because or just tell me it ain't so, because they're one of the nicest people that I've ever met.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. I appreciate that sentiment. First, I was the first Black woman first Black person to serve as councilwoman with the first ward in the city of Albany, and currently the first Black chief city auditor in the city of Albany. And I will say, in our city's long history, we've only had one female mayor, and she currently serves as the mayor, but we've never had a person of color as mayor in this city. And so to have the opportunity to work alongside our mayor and to even have a presence in City Hall means a great deal. And I often have individuals, whether it's some of our janitors who come in and they just say, we appreciate seeing your face. To have a person of color in a leadership role in City Hall means a lot. And so I don't take that lightly or for granted. You know, I wish I could say that people don't have nasty and mean things to say, but that is far from the truth. And as an elected official, as a public servant, you get called every name in the book because people think that they own you with their votes. And there are times I have had to say to constituents, you will not be disrespectful to me. You can say whatever you want on social media, but you will not email me or talk to me directly disrespectfully, because I don't have to accept that, and I will not accept that, vote or not. And so I do catch a lot of heat, one, being a woman in politics, and then being a Black woman in politics. One of the stereotypes is that Black women don't get along. We can't work together. crabs in a barrel. And while there are some elements of at times in which some of us can't get along, and I just think that's human nature. But when you look at the totality of Black women and the camaraderie, when it's time to come together, we come together. And so when we look at some of these Black businesses that are thriving in our community, they're not thriving because someone from the outside is coming in to support them. They are thriving because Black women in the community support them, and Black men too. And as well as my soror colleague just talked about, we go to bat oftentimes when we are the only ones at the table, and there's a responsibility to bring others with us. And that responsibility comes with rolling up your sleeves and going to war for other people and candidates who look like you, again, that other people just don't see. They don't see their talents, they don't see their gifts, and are quick to write them off for minor details. And so I will say my experience has been with Black women. Some of my strongest supporters are Black women. Some of the ones who are quick to throw a fundraiser for me have been Black women. When I have been under attack, those who have come to my side, girl, I got you, have been Black women. And so I want to dispel that myth that we don't get along and that we can't work together, because we do it all the time.
So now, with all this amazingness, I'm going to direct this one to Dr. Dingus and Ms. Wing. What would you guys tell your little Black girl self if you wanted to give your little Black girl self some advice? Because there might be other little Black girls who are watching out there. And if you could help them avoid some type of pitfalls because of some advice that you might give, ladies, what would that type of advice be? What would you tell your little girl self? Kalisa, you want to go ahead first?
Sure. I think first and foremost, I think I put something in the chat earlier, that as a little girl, when we were living in a primarily white neighborhood before I moved to the inner city, I used to hear things like, you're pretty for a Black girl, or you're smart for a Black girl, or you're so well spoken for a Black girl. So all of those for a Black girl things that kind of weigh on you. I would tell our young queens that they are enough just as they are and as they show up. And I think moving to the inner city and then going to school in the hood and being overly policed and witnessing, the traumatic implications of the school to prison pipeline, especially for our girls of color, who are really, especially our brown, darker hued girls of color. And I think another thing I tell our young queens, like just be who you are and not who you're not. That, you don't have to, I remember one of my favorite teachers used to tell me, just because you live in the hood doesn't mean you have to be the hood. You can be whatever you want to be. There's nothing that can stop you. So those are some of the things that I would tell my young queens. And at the end of the day, I also would encourage unapologetic is just my thing. And we walk around with so much double consciousness and cognitive dissonance as Black people, but also as Black women. We know what our Black brothers are saying about us, or how they're talking about us. Somebody said, how can we support our Black women? Don't just be my ally, be my accomplice. An accomplice is going to take the crime with me. And the ally is going to tell you after the fact, they shouldn't have said that. The accomplice is going to speak up and say, no, this isn't right, or this is what we need to do. And so I think just owning and knowing who you are. Dr. Dorsey said, that myth of we don't get along. Myself and my girlfriend, Dr. Tanya Holmes and Tanya Hill, created Woke Ed Chat for that very reason, the Women of Color in Education Chat, because we wanted to create a safe and brave space for Black and brown women. not just, just all of our women of color to come together, our Black, Indigenous women of color, so that we can dispel that myth that we don't get along, that we are catty, that we're in competition. That's not true. You are my sister. I see you. I love you. When you win, I win. And even though I'm not your soror, I am ski-weeing and rooting and everything else I would need you to do, being me, find me, but I love you. We share the sisterhood of our melanated skin. And so those are some of the things that I would tell my young women, that you can create whatever narrative you want for yourself. If you don't want the negative stereotype, you can live that out, and you can be the change that you want to see. If you don't want people thinking that we don't get along, create spaces where we can build that solidarity and that sisterhood. So thank you.
Dr. Dingus, what do you think about that? I know you got some words of wisdom for us.
I think I just want to say for me, my 16-year-old self is always the measure for my 40-something-year-old self, of where I am. I always refer back to, okay, what would 16-year-old Janine think about where I am today? And I talked about where I come from. I think an existential question or issue I've always dealt with was, race just is fundamentally illogical. It made no damn sense to me. It made no sense that I got to work twice as hard as the next person, or twice as hard as the white girl, or I get told, like Calissa just talked about, yeah, you're smart for a Black girl, or you're this, with the qualifiers always following the description of who we are. Just fundamentally illogical. And I think what helped me was I had, at the time, my father had passed, and my mom was dating a gentleman who had formerly been in the Nation of Islam. And it wasn't necessarily that we were engaging in these faith discussions, but we were engaging in these discussions of who you are in developing a critical mind. And so I'm eternally grateful to him for that. And so one of the things that I would tell, and I always try and tell young people, is read, read, read. Read. You can't ever read enough. Read yourself into existence. Because, and being an educator, I can say this, I don't ever fully trust K-12 to be able to help our kids understand fully who they are. I always tell kids, you have your own curriculum. You have your own curriculum in which you are written into, in which you can gain a better understanding of yourself. So it's one of those things where I spend a tremendous amount of time in the library, because that was a place of peace for me, because I could find myself. Growing up, I grew up in the hood, but went to all white schools all my life. And I couldn't find myself there. But I found myself in Leslie referred to Maya Angelou, or Paul Laurence Dunbar, or Langston Hughes, all of those things. Read, read, read. If reading isn't your thing, if you want to be in technology, read about how to code. If you want to grow up and you want to be a licensed beautician, it's not just about the beautician. Read about the art and the history and how we express ourselves through hair, but find something to anchor yourself on and to read and be a lifelong learner. I would also say, going back to my comment about how race is just fundamentally illogical, I think about how much time I spent across a lifespan thinking and worrying about, well, what are the white people going to think about us? What are the white people going to think? And that gets into your head. Kalisa referred to that whole double consciousness thing. That's in your head. That's a seed that's planted in the subconscious. And I want these young women to know, like the sisters on here have said, you are more than enough, more than enough. Know your value and know your worth, but also along the way, be able to forgive yourself too, because the world oftentimes has these horrifically hard standards for Black women, but set the bar for yourself. And if you fall this time, get up, pick yourself up, keep going, but I think trying to figure out, how do I disengage from that constant voice of you're not enough, or the measuring up to white people's standards. Setting that standard for yourself and being able to, and let me just flip back to the previous question, if I could, really quickly. You talked about Black women leaders and the things that we've been told about ourselves. I got to a point where I had to strategize and completely disengage and do this run, go tell that thing, because you all are going to think this anyway. So I'm going to give you something to run and go tell that about, you know? So here's what students are saying on these course evaluations. Oh, really? I'm bringing this back into the classroom. Going back to how racism is fundamentally illogical. I'm going to show you just how illogical you are. And so I think, you know, for little Black girls, know the game, know yourself, read, and also read and have that understanding of how race functions in this country too. And don't wait for somebody else to teach it to you. You get out there and you learn it for yourself.
Wow, that's powerful. And I'm going to give everybody opportunity. I got to close in a minute. But when she says read, y'all, she said, if you don't read, Paul Miller, you're not going to get your doctorate. And she forced me, twisted my arm to read. So she's telling the truth. But I'm going to start with, and I'm going to give everybody 60 seconds to close. And so even if you divert a little bit and say something a little different, but I'm going to lead you with a question. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Myers. And the question is, in 60 seconds or less, provide me with a blueprint for success for young Black women who may be watching. So whatever your tidbits, your tips, your blueprint, you got 60 seconds, and I'm clocking y'all because we got to kind of wrap this up. So go ahead, Dr. Myers.
Blueprint for success is as follows. Do not conform to what other people tell you that you need to be or you should be. And even if that includes those closest to you, like your parents, you have to go with what those God-given talents, abilities, and skills that you have. You also, it's an old saying, but you know what? There are going to be times when you fail. But failing truly is when you refuse to get back up again and you just pick up your toys and you go home. The poem, Life Ain't Been No Crystal Stair, right? It's had cracks and you're sometimes going in places where it's dark and there ain't no light, but keep climbing, keep moving on because you have to, right? You just don't know who is depending on what you bring to the table. The other thing, and I'll just talk in sound bites, if you are not at the table, ladies, then you are on the menu, and recognize that and know that. And know that you never say, well, I'm just a school counselor, I'm just a clerical. You have so much power and lead from wherever you are because you are regal. You are from a royal priesthood. You come from ancestors that walked the earth and ruled with power and with authority. And know that indeed that you are good enough. And every morning that you get up, look in the morning and speak positive affirmations over yourself. And talk and speak. I believe in speaking things into existence. So if I sat my whole life and said, I will never be Dr. Myers Small, I will never be a wife. And there were times that I did say those things. I overheard, I didn't get married until I was 49 years old for the very first time. And I married the love of my life, right? So take your time. Don't feel like you have to fit into what other people craft for you. You have your own purposeful destiny and walk in the footsteps that have been ordered specifically for you.
Thank you. Dr. Queinnise Miller, your turn. Give me your blueprint for young Black women, 60 seconds.
Listen, Dr. Myers just gives me life. I'm just like here, like I can just listen the whole time. Okay, a few things. So the first thing is, I remember when I went natural and my mother was like, what are you going to do? You're not going to get a job. No one's going to hire you with that nappy hair. And it was my grandma, we're gonna put some curls and some pressing and some curls. And I want, just give a shout out to all my sisters who were bold enough to be naturally who they were. I would tell my young self that you are enough just the way God made you. Another thing I would tell my young self is, and I tell everyone this, is to follow your passion, for in it lies your purpose. That thing that you love, God put it there for a reason. And if you just follow it, I don't care if it's to be a pencil maker. Baby, God's got something for you in the land of pencil making that's going to change the world. Follow it, because that's what he made you for. Another thing I would say is to love, laugh, and lead. Love everyone, but most importantly, always love yourself. Because when you've got self-love, then you won't allow anybody or anything to come in and to disrupt the love that you have and the love that God has for you. And then you can give love. You can't give anything out that's not already in you. Laugh, enjoy life. It's so short. And with COVID and everything, natural disasters going on, we don't know how long we're going to be here. While we're here, enjoy and laugh. Laugh until you cry. Laugh until you got to go to the bathroom. And then finally lead. And when you lead with excellence. In everything that you do, lead with excellence, because just like Dr. Myers says, you never know who's going to be coming up, who's going to be following you, who's going to be looking at what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, so that they then can do that for someone else. And then last but not least, and I'm done, is I like the whole soundbite thing, is remember to always be able to see it and have vision. If you don't see it before you see it, you'll never see it. And so dream really, really big, because I am sure that Dr. Myers and my other colleagues and sorors here, this where we are right now is not something that just happened. You've got to be able to see it. And so I just want to encourage that. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here with these amazing women, and the magic that's here.
Dr. Simmons, 60 seconds.
Wow. Whew, how can I follow that? Amen, sister. All right. So for me, I have tried to live by three words. One, be poised. I have to carry myself as the queen that I am. And I carry that with me. I am poised. Number two, I am persistent. We've talked a great deal about persistence today. And that means that no matter what I get up today and have to face, I will face it head on and I will overcome. So be persistent. And last but not least, be prosperous. Go to school, get your education, start a business, invest in the stock market, pay off your debts, live the life of prosperity. Live it today. Don't wait for something to happen. Wait till you get this, wait till you get that, need a big house. No, you don't. Be prosperous today with what God has blessed you with, so you will be blessed with more, and then you can bless others. So be poised, persistent, and prosperous. And that is what I want to leave the community with, the listeners here. That is what I lead by. Please do reach out. Go to my website, LakeishaSimmons.com. I'd love to hear from others so that I can give and pour into others. Thank you.
Dr. Pleers, your turn, 60 seconds.
You're going to tell a politician 60 seconds? Let me see what I can do here.
I'm going to put time in the inbox now. If you got 60 seconds, woman, let's go.
Let's go. So first thing, ground yourself spiritually if you feel convicted to do so. I would not be here without my faith and spirituality. Get your education. I think we undervalue education in our community so often. And the reality is your education will be the difference between what you do and what you don't do with your life. Keep going. It will get dark, extremely dark, and you may not be able to see light in sight, but that doesn't mean you stop or turn around. You got to keep moving forward, even if you don't see the steps in front of you. Link up with mentors. What has saved me are mentors and people in my life who have just poured into me when I couldn't pour into myself, and have guided me through their words and their actions and their resources. So mentorship, sponsorship is important. Don't be afraid to leave your home environment. I was choking in DC, and me leaving DC is what really saved my life and allowed me to be the woman, the wife, the doctor that's sitting here in front of you today. Plan for the detour. Sometimes we think it's going to be a straight shot, and we write out all of our goals, our plans, and I'm going to be pregnant by this date, I'm going to be married by this date, and life will throw you so many curveballs. So I want you to plan for the unexpected, plan for the detours. And then lastly, as my pastor always says, grow where you're planted. Sometimes we are so focused on where we think we should be that we fail to ground ourselves and root ourselves where we currently are. So grow where you're planted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dingus.
I was busy having church. I forgot I had to unmute myself there. This has just been fabulous. You know, I mentioned read, read, read. I would say read, read, read again. The people who know me know that one of my favorite expressions is "we don't do raggedy," and I got that from yes, we don't do raggedy. And as a life expression, for me, that means that you always have to present yourself well. You take care to present yourself well, because presentation still is half the battle. Know how to make a case for yourself, you know, be able to advocate for yourself. Always show up well put together. And the sister on the call talked about being poised. We don't do raggedy. That's your mantra. The other thing I would tell people, and it goes back to, there was a song from the 70s, Ordinary People, and little becomes much when you place it in the master's hands, you know, and so you can't do this work alone. You know, you got to have your faith, you got to have a faith walk, but you got to collaborate with other people too. You know, attitude is everything. Have a positive, collaborative spirit and be able to grow and learn from other people.
Thank you. Mrs. Wing, your last 60 seconds here. What you got for us?
All right, I'm gonna be super quick. I love what everybody said. And again, it's just been an honor to be here in this space with you guys. And I've just gained so much. You have filled my bucket today. I think in the word, what Dr. Dorsey said, you have to be able to go to grow. So, you know, I think about joining the military and to get money for college, and being willing to move around and teach in Germany and live in Korea and live in all these different places. Don't be afraid to go to grow, because God has something way more. If your dreams don't scare you, then you need to find a new dream. I think the second piece of advice I want to give is Shamgar's Principles of Living. Check it out in Judges. You got to use what you got. You know, don't wait for somebody to give you something. Use what you got, do what you can, and start where you are. So don't wait for a sweeping policy change or funding or this or that. You can make change within your sphere of influence for whatever you want to do. And as long as you change one person's mind or heart, you have changed the world, because they see the world as they see it. The other thing is Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Two more things. I wanted you to tell you that if you can't change the state you're in, change the state you're in. I said in the chat, you can will yourself to feel however you want, and you have the power of life and death in your tongue. And so you can speak those things that be not as though they are. Whether you believe it, eventually it will come to fruition. So I want you to have faith. And last but not least, just as Dr. Janine said, you need people, but I want to encourage you, don't just seek out the people who you like, because if you want to stay in like, you're going to remain in lack. Because many times the people who have what you need are the people who you wouldn't even connect yourself with, but you got to see the covenant connection in there. And just as the Bible says, and I know this isn't super popular right now with cancel culture, we got to stop not talking to people who have a diversity or divergent thinking than us. Even Jesus sat down at the table with the prostitutes and the tax collectors. So we got to get out of that, because the only way we're going to be able to get to where we need to be in this world is to be in unity. We got to stop this divisiveness and stay focused on the purpose of why we really are here. And that is to make sure that we are loving as Christ loved us, and loving our neighbor and loving God. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
So, you know, I would like to say thank you to you all. You amazing, talented smart, just so many adjectives that I could describe you all with. Just powerful Black women. We celebrate you. We honor you. It was an honor and a privilege to call you colleagues and friends and bring you all together here on this panel. I believe from the comments that people want more. They want to hear more of you guys because you guys have been inspiring. Again, it's a privilege to know you all and to have you here in this space. I just encourage people to listen and learn from these women here because they really have a blueprint for success. On top of that, if you really like what you're seeing, come back and see us again next month, March 18th. We will be here again at 4 o'clock, March 18th, and we will have another panel that will be amazing as well. I'm going to turn it over to Carol, and thank you, Carol, for having the vision to help us get all this together.
Well, you guys are amazing. And I just want to say that Lisa Neal Graves is on here, and she's one of your sorority sisters, and she works with us, and she's just incredible. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her. I wrote her and I was like, I can't wait till we're all live with each other because it just is going to be so much fun. So, and I know we feel that way about everybody who joined. And my hope for this session, it was so amazing, is I hope like hundreds of and thousands of mothers will watch this with their daughters and dads with their daughters. And I just feel like, you know, the Black magic of you guys is that we all need a lot more of what you guys have. Everybody in the world does. And we can all learn from each other. So I just feel so honored to be among you guys. And I want to know if Paul and Queinnise and I can be honorary somethings of your sorority, because like what an awesome sorority this is. So anyway, it was so fun to be with you all. And thanks for the leaders that you are and for blazing the trails. And we will send you all the link. All of you who were part of this today will also get the link. And please think of at least 10 people you can all share this with a special message, because we really need, and somebody's saying your sons too. And somebody wrote in and was like, you know, how can Black men or men in general support amazing women? And I think like we need to make that a topic, I think sometime very soon. So thank you for being generous leaders and amazing trailblazers. And can't wait to meet you guys all in person and let us know how else we can be supporting you. And we're just really honored to work with someone like Paul, who could bring you all to this kind of national global stage. So thank you for everything, and we'll be in touch on email, and we'll share the chat. I tried to transcribe as much as I could for people who came later, but we'll try to capture your wisdom as much as we can, and we'll just keep this moving, ladies. So we're gonna be doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Be well, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
See you guys next time. Thanks again. Bye.
Part 2, Paul.
Part 2. We're coming back.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thanks again.
Bye-bye. And Dr. Leslie, I just want to say well, all of you have just impressed me and amazed me today. But like, all of you guys are just goals, and thank you so much. So